right, so here it's saying the curve C has parametric equations. X is equal to 3 over 2 of t to the 3 over 2 minus 2 to the minus 2t to the half. Y is equal to 2t plus 5 for values of t ranging between 0 and 3. So in part A, find the exact length of C. So we know that when a curve has been defined parametrically and we want to find the length of an arc or length of the curve, we are going to make use of the fact that S, which is the length, is equal to the integral from t1 to t2 of the square root, and that's the square root of dx by dt squared plus dy by dt squared, and that's with respect to t. So the task here is for us to find dx by dt and dy by dt. For dx by dt, it's going to be 2/3 of 3 over 2 of t to the power of 3 over 2 minus 1, which would be t to the power of a half.
Yes.
And that's going to be minus, here that's 2, and we bring down the half of t to the power of minus of a half. So that's going to give us, here they cancel, okay? So we're left with t to the power of a half minus, here they divide into each other and cancel as well. And we get t to the power of minus of a half. So this is dx by dt that we have. Now, we also are going to look for dy by dt, and here that's just going to be 2 differentiating here, right? We only get 2. All right. So now that we have this, we're going to find dx by dt squared plus dy by dt squared, okay, which would be t to the power of a half minus t to the power minus of a half squared, okay, plus 2 squared, basically. Now, this is going to be here, squaring t to the power of a half, we get t, and that's going to be minus 2 times the product of this 2, which is 1. So it's just going to be minus 2, plus the square of this, which is t to the power of minus 1, and that's plus 4. So that's t. Minus 2 plus 4 is 2, and t to the power minus 1 is t to the minus 1, basically. So we're going to say to get the length of arc, which is s, it is going to be equal to the integral from the limits here are 0 to 3, right? So we have 0 to 3 of the square root of t plus 2 plus t to the minus 1. According to the formula, it's a root of dx by dt squared plus dy by dt squared with respect to t. So the square root of that, and that's with respect to t, right? Now, since it's now under square root, okay, it would be a little bit complicated to integrate it just as it is. So we can look to see if this can be, if this might be in any way a perfect square. Okay, the t squared, what's under the square root? Could it be in any way a perfect square? All right, since we have a square root on it. Okay, so basically we are saying, we know that if we have a squared plus 2ab plus b squared, then we have a perfect square. And it's a perfect square, a plus b all squared. So if we take t to be a square, it will be t to the power of a half squared. And if we take t to the power minus 1 to be a square, it will be t to the power of minus of a half squared. And if we say 2 times t to the power of a half times t to the power minus of a half. We get 2 at the middle, which means this thing is indeed a perfect square. So I'm going to erase this. Okay, it's a perfect square. It's more like we have the square root of t to the power of a half plus t to the power minus of a half all squared, basically, with respect to t. So when we square root this, then it's like we have the integral from 0 to 3 of t to the power of a half plus t to the power minus of a half with respect to t. So it now becomes easier for us to integrate this, okay? So this will be t to the power of a half. If we integrate that, add 1 3 over 2, so it's 2/3 of t to the power 3 over 2. This a half, so that's going to be 2t to the power of minus of half plus 1. That's to the power of a half, and that's from 0 to 3. Substitute 3, so it's 2/3 of 3 to the 3 over 2, okay, plus 2 of 3 to the power of a half. Substitute 0, we just get 0, hey? We just get 0. So I'm going to factor out 3 to the power of a half here. So I'll be having 2/3, okay? That's 2/3 of 3 to the power of 3. Have I done that well? We need to check on that. 3 to the power 3 over 2 is 3 to the power of a half to the power of 3. If we factor out 3 to the power of a half, we get 3 to the power of a half squared. If we factor out 3 to the power of a half, we are left with 3 to the power of a half squared, which
Um,
is which is 3. So it's basically 3 of 3 to the power of a half. So when we factor out 3, it's actually we are left if we factor out 3 to the power of a half, we're left with 3 to the power 1 on it. And that's going to be plus. Here, if we factor out 3 to the power of a half, we're left with a 2. Okay. So we basically have 3 to the power of a half of, here they divide 1, so we have 2 plus 2, that's 4. So it's 3 to the power of a half times 4, which is 4 times the square root of 3, which will be the answer here.
okay.
Okay. I don't know if you understood how we done this. You're free to ask if there's a part you did not quite understand.
There's when I
Okay, it's breaking a bit. I can't hear you clearly.
the second mistake I made was just not completing the square, like the thing that you did earlier, but I understand now.
Okay, that's fine.